I was like, no, we need to do a safari because that is the game changer. That is what nobody else can offer. You getting a 5-star African safari plus the mentorship with very high quality mentors.
Welcome to the Scriptcake podcast. I am your host, Lavinder Gill, and this week we are excited to welcome screenwriter and the founder of the Screenwriter Safari in South Africa, Eve Hayes. The Screenwriters Safari Retreat doubles up as a world-class screenwriting mentorship and a bucket list vacation at a 5-star luxurious resort, Shepherd's Tree Lodge in Pilanesberg, South Africa. Welcome to the podcast, Eve.
Thanks so much, Lavinder. Thanks for having me.
You know, I've seen the ads for this retreat over and over for a while. And I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, I was about to apply. And right before I applied, it had just filled up. And it was just like this, oh, I wish I would have gone. And so I was super excited to go in 2023. So I knew I was going to go no matter what, except for the fact that you didn't have the retreat in 2023, so I wasn't able to go.
Yeah, it's exclusive for a reason because it doesn't happen every year.
So before we get into all the retreat information, I would like to know a little bit more about you, Eve, as a screenwriter. What sparked your interest in it, and how did you get into storytelling? And just give me the origin story of the superhero that is Eve Hayes.
So I came into screenwriting quite late in life, and it was by a completely unplanned situation. I had a deposition from that my father kept in a box, and it was a real life story about a political event that took place in Ireland, and I read it, and it's apparently about my ancestors, and I was like, wow, this is just the most incredible story, and this should be a TV series. So I thought I would contact the likes of Stephen Knight to do this into a TV series. So I chatted to a friend of mine, and she was like, well, why don't you write it yourself? And I was like, are you crazy? What do I know about screenwriting? And then I started thinking about it, and I thought, why don't I write it myself? And my partner at the time had studied screenwriting in his youth. And I asked him, I said, do you know how to write a screenplay? And he just started laughing. And he said, well, I do, but it's really difficult. So anyway, ignorance is bliss, and that's how I started my journey. I don't know if I would have started if I knew how hard it was. I just thought you just whack the screenplay out. So that's how I started, and obviously the bug bit. And I've written, a few screenplays by now. So that's how I got into screenwriting.
I believe you've got so into it, like you've traveled to the US to screenwriting conferences and things of such nature. So how did that evolution evolve? Because it's one thing to write in your room, that's like the first phase that we all go through. And then we start reaching out and maybe taking a class or maybe visiting a thing. How did that process evolve for you?
So look, I'm in South Africa, and our industry is very, very small. And our productions have small budgets. The story that I wanted to write was massively huge budget wise, and I knew that. I mean, I knew enough to know that. So I wanted to kind of branch out into more international waters and network a little bit more internationally. So I saw a conference advertised, and it was in Atlanta. I knew absolutely nothing. I borrowed the money to go to Atlanta, and I was super excited because they also said you could have lunch with some panelists, and off I went. So the long and the short of it is that it was absolutely amazing. I met many, many screenwriters, but it didn't quite deliver on the promise of the engagement with the panelists. So from that perspective, I was a bit disappointed. Like, the best I could do was maybe sit in an audience of 500 people and put up my hand and ask a question. But I knew that I wanted to do something in South Africa because when I was there, I also realized, like, being a South African, people were engaging with me a lot. And, a lot of African Americans actually would say to me, oh, I have to go to the continent one day. And I was quite taken aback at this, like, huge interest. So anyway, that's where the the seeds started to germinate for that. And then I went to a retreat in France, and I knew that the retreat was a far better networking option, because you organically connect with people as opposed to it being very forced. At the conferences, I describe it like screenwriters can be like piranhas, because they're all vying to get attention from the panelists, and it
Sure.
becomes a bit cringy.
Right.
So I'm not into that part. I just think it's much nicer to have a relaxed environment where people can just connect on whatever level.
And just talk about the difference between a conference and a retreat. Like, what is the difference so that people really understand what you're getting versus going to, what a conference.
Okay, so a conference, obviously, the panelists, like the mentors or whatever you want to call them, but they're panelists. They're called panelists at a conference, and they sit on a stage, and they're not really, you can just ask questions from the audience, and there's usually an MC who facilitates that. And then there's different sessions that you can attend, which are all very insightful, because there's lots of Q&A and all of that, but you don't get an opportunity to talk about your own projects, because at the end of the day, that's really what we want to do, is talk to people who have time to listen and just to have the opportunity. So that's really like more the conference vibe. And then the retreat vibe is where you have the opportunity to select a specific mentor over a number of days, and you get one-on-one sessions. We can go into the details and the format of how that works, but it really is a totally different experience, because what you are doing is you are connecting with, say, your mentors or other mentors as well on a personal, deeper level. It's unsuperficial. And I think that is really the game changer. And what I also like about that is, there's lots of online things as well, courses and stuff, but to get like a little bit of personal information, not information as such, but just to understand a person on a personal level, there's something very special about that. And you're never going to get that on an online course or experience.
No, I was in the past year, I've been a moderator at a film festival where it's me moderating questions for other people, exactly like you say it is at conferences and festivals and things like that. And, after the festival, there's always a rush where everyone comes up to the panelist and even to me, the moderator, and ask a couple of questions. And it's just like, you answer a couple quick questions, and you may see them a day or two later as you're walking to something, and they may ask you a question, but there's no interpersonal. I don't know their names. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they've written. I'm just kind of throwing general information out there. But I was also a mentor at a retreat, a screenwriting retreat that was 5 days, where I had three, people that got 90-minute sessions with me, and they're still in contact with me. Like I just talked to one of them
Exactly.
last week, and we have a relationship, and it's a completely different level of interaction when you're doing something like that. So tell me, what was it about the one in France that really inspired you to build what you've built?
So the one in France, it was that personal interaction. Okay. And because you also, I mean, for lack of a better word, you're not competing with 500 or 1,000 people. You are literally just speaking about your script. And it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Like, I actually coincidentally had a South African friend there, and I said to him, we have got to do this in South Africa. And he said to me, yeah, we should do this, and we'll get the mentors, we'll do it in Cape Town, because Cape Town is obviously like a big tourist destination, and we'll do it at a wine farm. And I was like, no, we need to do a safari, because that is the game changer. That is what nobody else can offer. I mean, there's winelands in California, lots, in Italy, everywhere, but there's not lots of safaris. And I think that's also what I've been very lucky to attract high level mentors,
Mhm.
there are plenty of people, and I have many emails from people saying I want to be a mentor, but I'm lucky that I can be quite choosy, and the mentors want to come because it is different. It's
Right.
completely different to anything else that they get asked to attend.
Okay. So let's say hypothetically, I am someone who's interested in going. Actually, you don't have to be hypothetical. I am someone who's interested in going. So, so talk to me about the retreat. Let's say, I send you an
Okay.
email and, maybe you decide to get on a Zoom call with me. Like, what am I, it's not inexpensive. We're not going to get in the cost of it. You can go to the website and figure all that out. But what am I getting? What is it?
Okay. I think that's a really important differentiator to understand that you getting a five-star safari, African safari plus the mentorship with very high quality mentors. So it is more expensive than others, but if you went and you had a look at the costs for a five-star safari all on its own, and then just you wouldn't even have access to some of the mentors that I've got. Some you do, but others you don't. They're not just going to read your scripts. So what would happen is, if you sent me an RSVP, I'd contact you, and it's always better to jump on a Zoom call because then I can also understand the projects. Because sometimes people also think they want a particular person, but in terms of where they're at or whatever, it might not be the best person. And obviously sometimes it is, and it also works on a first come, first serve basis. So we discuss that. That's the first thing, who they would like. And there is only 4 spots per mentor. So there's that. As so one has to be quite quick in booking. But it is, because it's a high ticket price, it does take a long time sometimes for people to make these decisions. So we talk about your projects, and then obviously a lot of people have never come to South Africa before, so they want to understand about the traveling aspect of it. So just I'll touch on that, and then we can get into the mentorship. You can fly directly from JFK or New York. There's a direct flight to Johannesburg. And then the Pilansburg, the actual lodge, is about 2.5, 3 hours from Joburg. So what's included in the cost is a shuttle. And I tell everyone, stay at the Intercontinental Hotel, because then you take out any uncertainty about like how to get there and time and delays or whatever. And it's super simple. You get picked up right outside there and off we go as a group. And then just something that people always ask me is like, oh, do you need like vaccines or anything? So you don't need any shots. It's a malaria-free area. That's also why I chose it. If you go further up north to the Kruger, then you're looking at malaria, but there's no malaria there. And this particular area and lodge has, well, not at the lodge, thank goodness, because else we'd all be eaten. But in the area, there's the big five. It's the lion, leopard,
Oh,
buffalo, elephant, and rhino. Yeah, that's the big five. So because not all like safaris and places have the big five. Like in Cape Town, you can go on a gimmicky safari, but Cape Town's not safari land, you know what I mean? That's not their natural habitat. So that's important. So that's also why I chose that area. And it's a national park. So yeah, so you don't need shots or anything. And then in terms of the lodge itself, it's a 5-star lodge. What's included is your 3 meals a day. Actually, it's a lot more than that. You don't stop eating from 5 o'clock in the morning, because your wake up call is super early at 5 o'clock, and there is snacks at 5:30. And then you go on the game drive and you get more snacks. And then you come back and you have breakfast. And so that's your third meal by 9 o'clock. Then there's tea, then there's lunch, then there's tea, then there's game drives, and more snacks and supper. So it's a lot of eating. So you won't starve. Actually, I think that's been the biggest complaint.
which is what? There's too much food?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a foodie. So is South African food similar to food here in the US, or is it a different
Yeah.
experience?
So I'll just tell you a story. Christopher Lockhart, one of the first mentors I had, he told me, I am the fussiest eater and I just bring my own food and I eat protein bars. So don't worry about me with food. So I just said, well, give me a clue, What do you like? Meat and potatoes. I said, well, that's the staple food here. You'll be fine. And he loved the food. And at the end, he said, I didn't even have to dip into my own stash once. It was amazing. And then he was sending me messages from Joburg airports and sending me pictures going, oh, in the US, I would have paid this much for this steak. And it was so brilliant and it was so cheap. That's the other thing with the exchange rate. For us South Africans to travel to the US on the dollar, it's very expensive. But coming the other way, it's not.
Okay. Do you know what the rate difference is or how it
Yeah,
works?
it's so the exchange rate is roughly 19 to 1. It fluctuates all the time, but that's roughly what it is now. And that means that for every dollar, you get 19 Rand. Economies of scale obviously come into play with that, but in general, you always scoring on dollars.
Okay. I mean, like if you were to go to McDonald's here, you would spend $8 or $9 on a meal. How many rand would that be in South Africa?
Oh, I know that that's the index, right? The McDonald's is always the international. Do you know that? Or
No,
did you
I
just
didn't
say
know
that
that. I just said
coincidentally? Oh
it.
my gosh, that
Really?
is actually a measurement. It's the McDonald's index is what you pay for a burger in one country versus another. I never buy McDonald's, so I don't know what it costs, but it'll be a lot less than
Okay.
$8.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll Google online what a
Yeah, I'll have
McDonald's
to
meal
check.
costs in South Africa versus, and that'll give me a great.
Oh,
No, there's two things that my family and I always do when we travel internationally. One is we always go to a movie theater because watching a
oh,
movie in a different country is a completely different experience. Okay.
really? I never
Oh, it's
thought of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's so cool.
We were in Vienna and we were doing a cruise down the Danube River a couple years ago. The Minions movie was coming out, and my kids really wanted to go see it. That evening, there was some excursion going on, like a wine tasting or something. We're like, okay, we'll go see the movie, and we go. And in America, when you go to a movie theater, you can buy the ticket and you can go in 30 minutes early. And it's just, playing
Mm.
commercials or something, or there's nothing on the screen and you just take your time. Well, in Vienna, you can't go in until 5 minutes before the movie. So we arrived really early. And then we had like 20 minutes to kill, and you couldn't go sit in the theater, which was odd for us. And then we went for a nice walk through Vienna. We came back. And as we came back, unbeknownst to me, there was this whole thing about dressing up for that movie. I don't know if you remember that or
Oh,
not. And so
back in the day,
no, this
not
was
now.
2 years ago. This was something about the Minions movie. I don't know. A lot of teenagers dressed up. So we're walking back, and I don't know anything about it. And it looks like there's about 30 or 40 high school age students going to a prom or something. The boys were in suits and ties, and I'm like, what is going on? It was weird. And then we eventually get in the theater, and all of those kids came in the theater. Movies are a religion to me. Theater is a church, and I expect it to be a certain way. And we get there and the previews are playing and everyone in the theater's talking. So you can't even
Mm.
hear what's going on. And I'm starting to boil and my kids are looking at Dad, calm down. Like I'm like, how
Yeah, yeah.
am I going to watch this movie if they're talking the whole?
I think I'm in your camp.
Right. And so, and it was a 3D version. So there were glasses. And during the thing, apparently somebody was throwing the glasses at somebody else and it went right past my head. And I was about to stand up because, I'm a tall person. And so, slightly intimidating at times. And my wife just grabbed my hand. She goes, it's going to be fine, honey. It's not a big deal. And, the Minions logo or Illumination, the company that makes the movies, came on, and the studio instantly went and then you hear it goes illumination, when the way the minions say it. And then everybody cheered. And I had never experienced that before in a theater, like
Mm,
everyone
mm.
cheering for the credit of the production company. And what proceeded to happen was the most interactive film watching experience I've ever had. And it made the
Okay.
movie so much more enjoyable because, like, there were references, like, if you'd seen the first or second movies or whatever, there was a callback in the movie and everyone would just, cheer or yell, and it was nothing like going to a movie theater here in the US. And
Yeah,
then,
I think ours might be more like yours,
yeah.
and I might be more like you.
Yeah, we later
Until
on,
you're not, right?
yeah, later on that trip, we went to watch the Elvis movie in London, and the entire theater was love seats. So I don't think
Oh,
all the theaters in London are that way, but the one we happened to go to, it was all love seats. It was just a cool thing to experience, to watch a movie in a slightly different experience. So we do that now. So whenever we're abroad, we want to make sure to watch a movie. So I'm going to do that if I can make it to your retreat.
there's actually an old movie theater here. It's called the Labia.
Yeah.
And my friend, she only likes to go there because you can buy wine and take wine in.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, but nowhere else, only at that one.
Okay. Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. The second thing we do whenever we go internationally is we stop at a McDonald's, because it is an easy thing to see what the differences are. And
Yeah.
in 2017, we were in China and they already had all the touchscreen stuff, which is only coming out this past year or so here, maybe last 2 years in the US, where you don't
Okay.
go to the counter, you just go use the screen and order it. And in India, cows are sacred, so they don't have beef. So they don't have a Big Mac, they have a Maharaja Mac, but
Okay.
yeah, the chicken
Chickpeas
stuff,
and soya.
yeah, the chicken's the same, the nuggets are the same, the fries are the same. But I was teaching documentary filmmaking in Bolivia, and the McDonald's was in this 200-year-old building that was magnificent, and it had this unbelievable courtyard. The McDonald's had this courtyard that was
They got money.
50 to 100 meters long and wide, with trees and places to sit all around. And you would just go and get your food and, work on something in the afternoon. It was really nice. If you do go abroad, two things I would recommend.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, go
That's
catch a
cool.
movie and see what's good
Yeah.
at the McDonald's. But that's not why we're here. We're talking about the Screenwriter Safari. So, okay. So I sign up, I land, I spend the night at the Intercontinental. By the way, one of my favorite hotel chains in the world. They're always great hotels. And then I do a ride out to the resort. So what happens next?
Okay, so obviously the first day is more about introductions, got to get to know everyone. And then that afternoon, everybody goes on their first, I call them game drives. Most Americans call them safaris. But by the time you leave, you usually call them game drives. So those last they're quite long. They're about 3 hours because game animals, it's not like a zoo. You got to go find them, and you drive far distances, and you can drive for 20 minutes and you see some buck and you just see some zebra or whatever, but one's always looking for the big five. And I always say to people, you've got to be out there to be able to experience it. And I've seen grown men cry, literally, if they haven't gone
Mhm.
on a drive because their wife said we need to pack now, and then they don't go, and then you see a leopard, and it's devastating if everyone else gets to see it and you don't. But yeah, and that's happened to me too, so that's why I always share that story. But yeah, I encourage people to try and maximize the experience, because the difference with this retreat to others is you book ending it with like a life-changing experience, which is the safari. So the days are long, and I say this to people because for those four days, you need to be on top of your game. You need to get up early and just suck the marrow out of life and your mentorship, and what you put in is what you get out. So other retreats don't really have that like intense experience. There are other experiences, obviously, because each retreat has different things to offer. But this is it's quite intense. So that's why I also say to people, this is to learn. So we'll get into the mentorship kind of format now. And there's not a lot of space to sit and write. Obviously, you can do that. No one's forcing you to go on any game drives or anything, and you can just sit on your balcony in your private suite and you can write if you want. But my recommendation is learn, learn, learn. network with people, chat to people, and take all that knowledge home with you and apply it. So I guess that's maybe a fundamental difference, because a lot of writers' retreats have a lot of space in the day for people to do tons of writing. But there have been many people who've managed to squeeze it all in. They get their notes from the day, and then they do the game drives and their notes and everything. Some of the mentors also skip the drives so that they can, work on their notes. Everyone's got their own way. So maybe I must tell you about the mentorship.
Please do.
Yes. Oh, and then just kind of the lodge and the actual experience and everything. Each a couple of nights of the 5 nights, there may be some entertainment as well, just to kind of bring in a bit of South African culture, so you leave with a bit of understanding as well. So with regards to the mentorship, every morning after breakfast, there's a presentation. So there's 4 full days, there's 4 mentors. So each mentor will do a presentation on the relevant days. And that it won't be like massively long. It's about 45 minutes or so. And a little bit of time is included in that for some Q&A. So they all got different expertise. So that's kind of like what, at a conference or whatever, I'm sure you've done those kinds of things. And everyone attends that. And partners can also attend, obviously, as well. As you know, partners can come to the safari, and they can be included in everything except the next phase, which is the one-on-one mentorship. So you've got 4 people per mentor. The scripts need to be sent in a month before so that the mentors can read them and do their notes, but everybody else gets to read them too in your little group. And the reason for that is you're just not wasting time, because else you're just pitching the story to people and time is limited. So at least you kind of go into your little groups knowing a bit about each other. And so I'm not prescriptive about how each mentor must manage their writer, because everybody's got their own way. So they must do what feels comfortable for them. Some of them mix it up with some real one-on-one time. Others like to just do it with the whole group. They feel that people get more out of it that way. So it absolutely depends on that mentor style. And that's for about, say, 2.5 hours. And then you break for lunch. And then after lunch is a pitching opportunity. So I've never had anyone not pitch, because it's a wasted opportunity if you don't, but it's not like you have to, because it's nerve-wracking. But you pitch to everyone, all the mentors, all the writers, and then they give you 2 minutes worth of feedback each, roughly. And that is a great opportunity, because that means, you being yourself, you talking about your story. And sometimes, like, your story may resonate very strongly with a different mentor, or depending on the feedback that you're given, you can go and chat to them afterwards and say, you mentioned this, what do you think I can do about that? And it opens up a lot of opportunity for conversation. So that is a great thing to do. One of the testimonials I got from a lovely lady, she said it was thrilling as much as it was terrifying. So it's just like that. But like any meeting, I suppose, that all of us have had to do. And then after pitching is probably the only like schedule full-on free time there is, for like a couple of hours. And then there's high tea, then it's the game drive, and then it's supper. I call it supper, dinner, and then potentially some entertainment. So that's the format of the mentorship. And like I say, everyone's different on how they do the notes and all that jazz.
Are the meals communal, or do you just eat by yourself? Like, how does that work?
No, it's a full-on resort, like a hotel. So there's exclusivity. So we're not sharing it with any public people. It's only us in the whole resort.
Oh,
So yeah, guys, this is exclusive. It's not It's
I don't think
it's
I've read anywhere that it's just you rent out the entire hotel. I don't think I knew that.
Yep. Yep. It's only us. So we can do whatever we like. So um we all have like free reign of the dining hall and the garden and all of that jazz. So yeah.
Wow. I got questions on both sides. First, I'm going to ask you about the actual safaris. Like, are you in like a protected vehicle? Like, how does that work? Because I know some people might be
We call
nervous.
it a Land Rover. You guys call them Jeeps. I've heard you guys always saying the Jeep. It's an open vehicle, so it seats about 8 people or so. It's open. It's got a covering, overhead. I mean, some safaris you don't even have the covering.
Mm,
Like when I went to Botswana, there's no covering. Um, because they drive deep into the bush and those covers will just get ripped to pieces. But it's a national park, so you can't just wreck the gaff and drive all
right.
over the place and over the trees. So you're fairly protected. But the sides are open and everything. If it rains, they can pull down the sides with their plastic things, but it's unlikely to rain at that time of year. That's another thing. It's actually very dry at that time of year, but it's peak game viewing season because it's dry, there's less foliage, it's easier to spot animals.
Mm.
When it's greener, it's much harder. So anyway, that's people are always surprised that summer isn't the peak time. So it's like just spring, just coming out of winter.
And what is the temperature down there? And what's the like? What? How do you?
Uh, I only know Celsius. So Joburg is very like consistent. So in Celsius, it's roughly like say 22, 23. It's very comfortable at
Mhm.
that time of year. The days are warm, but the nights are chilly. You need to and even when you go on a game drive, you always have to have a jacket because it gets cold because you drive into the night when it gets dark. And obviously it's an open Land Rover, so it's windy.
22 is about 71, 72 degrees here, which is kind of perfect. Where it's
Yes, it is.
like
Yeah.
maybe wear a sweatshirt or something, but you don't need a overcoat or anything warm, excessive.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
in the days you're in a t-shirt
right.
and yeah, you don't need snow jackets or whatever.
Well, that sounds ideal. Okay. And then from the screenwriting standpoint, let's say, I pick a particular mentor and are they just giving you feedback on your script? Can you just talk about whatever? Like what's the frame?
Yeah. So look, that's why they need the scripts a month in advance to prepare. And I mean, I know that some of them focus heavily on theme or tone or whatever their expertise is, and they try to draw it out of you. Others are more on structure. Some I've had kind of focus on comedy, so it totally depends. But it really is an in-depth opportunity to work on your script to get it to the best level. So we can all pay for consults and we get notes and everything. So it's similar to that, but you're having it for 4 days in a row. Um, so also something to consider is, consults. I am a huge fan of consults. Like honestly, the consults I've had have literally leapfrogged my screenwriting career. I couldn't have sat in a classroom for a year and learned as much. And that's really what it's about. But they're not cheap. But if you I'm going to say this, if you calculate how much the consults will cost, and you could actually take that and put it towards Safari, and you could get 4 days with that person.
Hmm.
So just something to consider. And also something on the costs I should mention. And one of the mentors always tells me, oh, you must remind people of that. And I always forget, is apparently in the States, you can write the cost off with tax. I think if you got the appropriate. Yeah. So
No,
a
yeah, if
lot of people.
you're that's education,
Yes.
if you're, working and it can be part of, yeah, there's definitely something that can be written off as on your
Mm.
taxes here. So yeah, depending on what tax bracket you are. So if you're in the 50 percentile tax bracket, basically half the cost of it you don't have to pay because your taxes will cover
There
it.
you go.
So if you're
Yeah.
30%, then you get 30% off versus the full cost. So that's always nice. Okay, tell me who are your mentors this year? Who's coming, and tell me a little bit about them, please.
It's Meg LaFoe,
Mhm.
who is the Oscar nominee for nominated writer for Inside Out, and her Inside Out 2, it's coming out in June, I think. So that's very exciting. Actually, she was writing for it on the last safari. She works so hard. They all do, but she was, doing game drives, she was mentoring, she was writing in the few hours in between. So that's been awesome. And then there's Javier Grillo Maxwatch. So he's got a massive CV and list of awards and TV shows that he's written on. And everyone sort of identifies with different ones he's done, like The Dark Crystal, The 100. I heard him once say on a podcast, Modern Man is, I think, maybe his personal favorite. I need to talk to him about that. If that's, as a writer, not the mainstream stuff is what you personally love doing.
Right.
The big one now is The Witcher.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's so many. And then there's Jen Grisanti, and she is just like the best TV consultant.
She's
I don't even know what to say. She's just the most wonderful person. She's at the top of her game. She's constantly, revising, updating, and seeing what the trends are on television, and she's very sought after.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just can't say enough about Jen.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
Jen, I interviewed on the podcast, so you can listen to her podcast
I know. I know.
a couple of years ago. And I
She's
think
so awesome.
at the time, Jen had over 100 of her students sell their pilots for TV series. I'm sure,
Yep,
I'm
it's
sure the
it's
number is
it's
high.
over 100. It's over 110 now, I think.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah. And that's the other thing is Jen works with very new writers, like if you've never written before, and like very experienced working writers. So she's like across the board, and she does features as well. And she just can do that at all levels. Funny enough, quite a few of the people who've booked to come with her are experienced writers this time. Last year, not so much. It's just varies.
right.
And
Fantastic.
yeah. And then there's Joey Tuccio. I don't know if there's a screenwriter out there that doesn't know Joey. Yeah,
I know Joey.
everyone knows Joey, and we know Joey because he absolutely first and foremost, Joey just loves, well, I don't know about loves, but he does the most in the world, it feels like, to foster dogs,
He
to
does.
help dogs that
Absolutely.
have haven't had the best time. So we all love him for that. And then he just helps all the screenwriters. Like him and Roadmap genuinely help change people's lives, and just that jump from trying to get a manager or whatever. You obviously have to have, good writing, but he's very much also about the person, and he knows all the writers. That's the difference I find with Joey to other things, is he actually knows them personally, and he has no qualms about, like, he puts his email address out there. He's like, oh yeah, if this happened or whatever, get in touch with me. And he knows who they are, like, as people and in the industry, whereas, it can become a bit like a business where, he's the CEO sitting at the top and everyone else gets to be on the coalface. So I'll tell you a story about what happened on the last retreat, which was like the most awesome thing. So there was a writer, her name was Thealine, and Joey actually arranged for her to have a call with a manager, and she actually got raped on the last day.
Wow.
And I still talk to her, and she said it changed her life, like literally, because it's just opened up so many opportunities. I've had a very experienced writer who sent me a message a couple of weeks ago. It's been over a year, and he just said, and he's quite, he's not a schmoozy kind of person, but he said to me, it changed his life. And that's why I do this, because I know that it's not only also about the mentorships, but it's an experience that people haven't had before. And they don't understand. A lot of people are scared to come to South Africa. I don't know why, but they don't understand that we actually do operate, and we've got 12 official languages. We've got lots of different cultures. So they walk away with something quite interesting, I suppose, in their hearts.
Well, that brings me to something I want to mention. But before that, I want to mention Joey. I've also interviewed Joey on the podcast. Joey is so fantastic and full of life. And I think they've gotten like over 300, maybe even 350 people.
Over 350 now. I just can't keep track. It's so many.
And what a great guy. I actually signed up for Roadmap years ago, maybe 3 years ago, during the pandemic. I'm like, okay, let me just see what this is about. And I've taught screenwriting for 20 years. And the first month, the coursework, I don't know if you've met Dorian. Dorian is kind of in charge of the first month.
I've never met her, but I know of her, obviously. Yeah.
And Joey, jumps into all the classes and reads your stuff and talks to you the whole time, which I was shocked at because he's she and two of them are
Exactly.
on top of this thing, but they're the ones actually doing a lot of this work. Now it's grown, of course. They have even more people involved. And I was blown away, because I teach pitching. But the way Dorian teaches pitching is completely different, and it's so much more information. Unfortunately, I had to leave because I got offered to direct a film. You can't say no to that. So I left the program after the first month, not because I wanted to, but because
Mm.
opportunities presented themselves. And to this day, every time I see him at a film festival, either one of them or even a few other members of Roadmap, um, it's always a fantastic experience, and couldn't recommend him more. Couldn't recommend him more.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love having Joey and his energy and everything. He's so fun. Yeah, yeah, I can't give all the secrets away though, what happens on safari stays on safari, but it's fun.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I just love that I have been so lucky to just get all these amazing people.
No, I mean it
Um,
sounds like four superstars in the industry. And a
yeah.
fifth if you include Eve Hayes into that equation. But one of the things that's interesting about this is I often have to tell my students, like one of the most important things that you need to do as a writer, as an artist, is to have experiences, is to go out and try new things, is to go meet new people, and is to, involve yourself in the human experience so that you can write with it in a way that is so much more informed. And this trip seems to line up perfectly with that. It's about this
Yeah.
incredible experience as well as this incredible mentorship.
Yeah, well, that's how I created it and I designed it. You know what I mean? Because the lightning bolt just struck me like this is going to be different to everything else because it is a different experience. Like, I can't really explain to you what it's like. I can tell you, like, because it's not like a zoo, so the animals aren't there. But when you see like one of the big five or a cat, it's such a great experience. And when you're sharing it, like if you're sharing it with people, you're almost like bonded in this different kind of way because you've shared that. um yeah, but that's the thing, you have to experience it. It's not the same as just me telling you about it.
I so desperately want to go. I don't know if you know this, but it's happening during the week of my anniversary, my wedding anniversary.
You mentioned that.
Yes. And so I'm kind of in this, I'm waiting for my wife to say, can we go? Can we not go? Because I believe you can bring a guest on this trip, can't you? How does that work?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can go and you can Google to your heart's content. It
Mhm.
is so inexpensive. So the thing is, like, to bring a partner, it's super cheap. But if you had to go, like, say, I'm not even talking about the mentorship, just on safari for two people,
Mhm.
it would cost you more than, you know. So obviously it depends where you go. You can get cheaper ones. I've chosen a very nice lodge. You know what I mean? It's not like substandard accommodation. It's
Top of
you
the line.
know, it's really, really nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just expand on that. So you can bring a spouse or partner or friend along for the
Yep.
safari component, but not necessarily the screenwriting component. How does that work?
You know what? They can attend everything. Like all the Q&As, they can be part of the pitching. The only thing they're not going to be involved in is when everyone's in their little groups
Mm,
each day. So,
okay.
because that's really the writer's
Right.
time. But there's a spa at the lodge. So, and then all the partners, chit chat or go swim or do whatever, relax, whatever they want to do. I mean, they definitely won't be bored.
How many people have in the past brought partners with them?
Probably like 5 or 6 people will
Okay.
bring partners this year. So Jen Grisanti always brings her husband. This year, Meg is bringing her sister, and Javier is bringing his wife. Um, Joey was going to bring his sister last year, but she was getting married and stuff, so he's coming alone. And then a few of the writers are bringing their partners.
Okay.
And yeah, it just depends. It's
And
totally, and I mean, I've had people on the first one, this one guy brought his mom.
mhm.
He, I'm telling you, she was the best. Like, she loved it so much. She cried,
Mhm.
and she actually mailed me afterwards and she said, I do these travel trips. And she does her own travel trip there now every year
Oh, wow.
herself. Yeah, she's a teacher and she just brings other people because she loved it so much. So, yeah, that was really cool.
Okay. And
And
so
yeah.
if you're a guest, you pay us a lesser fee though. You don't have to pay the
Yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the cost is it's $7,999 as a full mentorship
Mhm.
for a writer, and then it's $3,800 for the partner.
Okay. And that includes everything, food,
And it
lodging.
includes all the food. And this is the other thing, it includes all your drinks and your shuttles there and back. So you don't have to, you literally need to arrive at our Tambo Airport. And then there's no more besides the night at the Intercontinental. And I do recommend people stay a night because jet lag is brutal.
Right.
Some people think they're superheroes, but I know better. So they must listen to what I say. Um, and yeah, else everything's covered.
Okay.
If you want to do things like the spa or something like that, then you need to pay for that. And there's all the drinks, but obviously not like, a Moet Chandon or whatever, like be reasonable. But yeah,
But you do have to pay for airfare, right? Depending on wherever you're coming.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do people like couple it and stay like an extra week and go to like
Yep.
Johannesburg and things? How often does that happen?
Yeah, yeah. It totally depends. Some people need to just fly in and out because they've got other obligations. And then I always think like if you're coming all this way and you can add on a few days, try come to Cape Town because Cape Town is, the place that everyone likes to come. It's pretty, it's got the mountains and it's got the penguins and the wine farms and it's just the touristy Table Mountain, all of that. So and it's a 2-hour flight. So I always recommend that. And in Joburg, look, it's a city. There's not that much to do in Joburg. It is the capital of South Africa, but I like people maybe to think about going on a little day trip, like to the Apartheid Museum and to, get a little bit of history if you've got time. But it just depends on everyone and what their interests are.
No, Africa is one of the continents I have yet to go to, and man, I want to go so bad. Um, all right, any last thoughts to wind this thing up about someone who's on the fence about coming to this trip?
Guys, I don't know when I'm going to do this again. I'm not just saying this. It's a hugely big event to do. And it's not cheap, but I don't run it like a business. It's not profitable. So it doesn't make like huge sense for me to keep doing it, if it's not a business. But each year all the costs for the lodge and the flats and things go up. So I have to be very careful if I ever do this again. But I don't have another booking. This is the last one I'm doing for the foreseeable future. You can never say never,
Mm.
but that is genuinely the current status quo. I've got 4 spots left.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I'm going to wager there won't be 4 spots left much longer. Much
Yeah,
longer.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a big decision, so we'll see. Because I have people going, oh, I'm still trying to get it in place or whatever, because they got work obligations and working out schedules like you. It just depends. There's a myriad of factors to consider. So yeah, that's just the current status quo.
So, if you were on the fence about this, this may be your last chance. So, check it out. What is the website that anyone can find information on?
It's www.screenwritersafari.com.
Okay, and then they
Yeah,
can.
and I've got a Facebook page. You can look for Screenwriters Safari. Well, it's a group. Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Threads for what it's worth. Oh, and LinkedIn, obviously.
So, if I go out to your website and I check it out and I click, is it an RSVP button or something like that? That's how we.
Yeah, just go to package deals or book my spot, and you can just it'll send me an automated RSVP.
Okay.
And I'll get in contact. Or you can just send me a DM on Facebook or
Okay.
on LinkedIn or on Instagram, whatever you want.
Eve
But
Hayes.
go to the website and, oh, the other thing, look and read the testimonials because, at the end of the day, I can tell you whatever I like. I was so blown away the last time I got video testimonials, and then they were trying to outdo each other. And then the next one produced a testimonial, and then another one produced one. So I was very lucky, and I'm very proud of those. I think that's actually like the best thing to do because you can hear it from someone else rather than me.
Right. No, absolutely. Eve Hayes, what you do is amazing. I hope I get a chance to be a part of it. I'm going to go upstairs and talk to my wife right now and see if I can lock that in and take one of those spaces.
We'll
Um,
make your anniversary. What date is the anniversary?
the 29th.
Okay, so that's the second last night.
Mm.
We'll make it special. But
Oh,
don't tell her that. There's got to be something as a surprise.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Fortunately, she doesn't listen to any of my podcasts or read any of my scripts, so that's fine.
Well, it'll be amazing if you come, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to chat to you. It's always divine.
No, I love talking to you as well, and I'm going to do everything I can to make this happen. Once again, if you are listening and are interested, so screenwritersafari.com, learn all about it, find her on social media, check it out. It is the experience of a lifetime.
Thank you. And also, well done on your ratings on your podcast.
Oh yeah, are they good? I haven't
Yeah,
checked. Oh,
Scriptcake.
thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. So well done.
I
It's
appreciate
it's
that.
a great podcast.
All right, thank you so much, Chief. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Yes, you too. Thanks, Lavender. Bye.
Until next time. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as a small token of my appreciation, I want to offer you a free video course on how to outline your screenplay. I normally charge $299 for this course, but for a limited time, it is free. Now, it is a 5-day course, but I'm giving you 7 days to finish this outline, okay? After 7 days, that course goes away. So if you're not dedicated and you don't want to knock out a killer outline for your screenplay, don't do it. But if you do, click the link below. I can't wait to hear how you like it.